The resignation of Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif couldn't have come at a worse time for the government. The nuclear deal he helped strike back in 2015 is in shambles. Washington has reimposed sanctions that were lifted after the nuclear non-proliferation agreement. And Iran's economy is in a nosedive. Prices are spiraling while incomes stagnate, and even necessities like food are becoming unaffordable for most people.
Our sales have decreased because there is no purchasing power. I put a lamb leg portion on the scale and it costs $34. Can they afford this?
Wherever you go, you can see that prices have doubled or tripled. Nobody knows what has happened since last year when the sanctions were reimposed.
Iran's oil exports have halved since the US reimposed sanctions in November. Most multinational companies have ditched projects in the country, laying off thousands of workers. And restrictions on banking have dried up imports as well as foreign currency reserves. President Hassan Rouhani says it's the worst economic crisis Iran has faced in 40 years. And analysts say it cannot be fixed without bringing Washington back to the negotiating table.
The biggest challenge Mr. Rouhani is facing is America's withdrawal from the nuclear deal and the problems arising after that. It's completely changed the situation and the domestic economy is in dire straits.
That's what Zarif had been trying to do, but analysts say the reimposition of sanctions has emboldened hardliners who don't support talks with the US and other countries. Some worry Zarif's replacement could come from this camp, and that would further jeopardize the already thin chances of a deal to stave off the economic crisis. Mubin Nasir, TRT World.
And Mobin joins me here in the studio now. Hi, Mobin. So it's still a bit up in the air whether or not Zarif is actually gone as Iran's foreign minister. But if he does end up leaving, how much of a blow is this for Iran's foreign policy?
Of course, that's been sort of the main question that all the news reporting about this incident has been about how he's the last link with the West, and without him, these talks are doomed. But even if he were to stay, this incident really highlights the fissures within the government and really reignites that debate over whether now, if Iran does get all the different powers, and especially Washington, back at the negotiating table, how effective would he be in being able to convince his side, his government, his establishment to actually follow through with the commitments that he makes. So definitely a huge blow.
We know tougher US sanctions under the Trump administration has really hurt Iran's economy. It's sent the rial plunging. Everyday items have skyrocketed in price. But it is still trading with neighbours in the region. Is that enough to cushion the blow of these sanctions?
I think the government's been making a big effort to make it sound like it is, and that its steps are enough, in fact. But really, beyond these headlines, if you look at India, for example, on the face of it, yes, they're still buying oil from Iran. They have secured a waiver until May, but imports by India have dropped by 41% since December. And the biggest of their buyers, Reliance Industries, has already said that they will stop buying once this waiver expires. So too has Lukoil from Russia. So really, not enough business being generated there. And again, quoting the example of India, Iran used to be their third biggest seller. Now they're down to number 6. So really, anywhere, not even close to being enough.
We know the European Union is determined to uphold this nuclear pact even without the United States, so much so that it's designed a payments mechanism to allow companies to continue to do business with Iran. Will that help these companies avoid US sanctions?
And in fact, that was announced, even though it was worked out much later, it was announced right after the United States said it was reimposing sanctions. But what has happened since? Look, Total has pulled out. We covered that refinery project extensively when Total announced it was pulling out. Maersk has said they are going to stop taking shipments over the next few months. Similarly, Peugeot was about to set up a car manufacturing plant there. They're not doing it. Clearly, these companies are perhaps going to use that facility for one-off payments, for sending imports in. But how many companies can we expect to set up separate businesses with their own balance sheets just to do business in Iran? Perhaps some will, but will it really be entice enough big companies? Really doesn't seem likely. And that is exactly what's needed, not imports. Investment is what the economy needs right now, and that is where the biggest question marks are looming.